Welcome and thanks for joining. Today I wanted to talk about the uncertainty of things, and things are constantly changing in our world, in us. And you know, it's not always just the things that change. It could be the interpretation or the rules around those things. So in business, years ago when I was working on my MBA, one of my projects was on how to build a brand and how to keep a brand relevant. And what we determined was you could do all of the right things with the brand, but at the end of the day, it was how the consumer interpreted that or how they bought it that actually gave it its relevancy. So, you know, if you think about legacy brands, when we talk about legacy brands, there are products that were legacy brands at one time, but because of the current age, we either think differently, there are different rules to play by, we look at things differently, so they're no longer as important or no longer relevant, and in some cases even taboo. You know, we can look at society. You know, there are things that are accepted in society today that a decade ago, but definitely, you know, 30, 40, 50 years ago were not only not accepted, but could land you in some hot water. So the lens and how we look at things can also determine our actions, not just our actions. And so that brings me to this discussion about legacy and how we act on a daily basis and what we stand for. You know, legacy is a topic that can go in a lot of different directions. And actually, hopefully this week or next week, we'll actually be interviewing Tony DiLeonardi, who wrote a book called Legacy Letters. And in that book, it's a fiction book based on kind of current events of today, so you'll be able to input yourself into that story. But as Tony was writing that book and working on that project, and he's done a lot of work around legacy, and I'll actually be sharing some of the things that he's written about legacy and specificity around people and people's legacies. What we determined was building a brand and building your own legacy have some parallels, and that is when your legacy is built while you're here, but determined after you're gone, right? So you have to do what you think is right today. And the reason why I say that, and I'm not trying to say there should be good or bad legacies, but for instance, even a topic we've talked about on recent shows has been the founding of our nation. And a good example I could put up is Benjamin Franklin or Thomas Jefferson. These are people that if you're probably late 20s or older, and maybe even early 20s and older, when you were in grade school and you learned about these people, you learned about them in a very flattering light. Just recently was, you know, the term Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day was out, and there's a lot of contention around that, but yet, you know, we grew up coloring pictures of Christopher Columbus in 1492. He sailed the oceans blue. So we look at Christopher Columbus, we look at Thomas Jefferson, and we look at Benjamin Franklin through the lens of today and the rules of today, and we take what we once considered remarkable accomplishments and we downgrade them. And I'm not here to debate whether we should or shouldn't. We all can have an opinion on that. But my point is, at the time and the rules that they had to play by and the morals and the ethics of that day, not whether they were right or wrong, but just the understanding, they thought they were doing the right thing. So I'll just say that about you and your life and how I live my life is, if we're living for that legacy and we want to pass that on, you know, and one of the things that I've told people as we were doing this research is, I realized that you can lead people with your legacy, but you can't be prescriptive. You can't tell them. You have to be that example. So again, in today's world, when you think about your legacy or what you will be remembered by, because your legacy will live many more years than you will if you are intentional about it, or you can not be intentional and either still have a legacy that maybe lives forever that you don't want to have, or that you're not going to be remembered a whole lot outside of the immediate. So the thing I would just say about your legacy is, in the context of today, in the context of your convictions. You cannot live someone else's convictions. You cannot live someone else's ideal lifestyle. You have to look at your morals, your ethics, your convictions, and what's important to you based off of how you see it today and through the lens of today, and live your best life. Live that life to the fullest. Be that example for others, and that's how your legacy will be left. Now, again, it will be built while you're here, but it will be determined after you're gone. So you don't know what those rules are. We don't know what the rules are in 200 years. Maybe and probably will be vastly different than what they are today. So you can't worry about that. There are some black and white rights and wrongs. Make sure you're on the right side of the rights and wrongs. Make sure you follow your convictions in your heart, and be intentional about leaving that legacy. There's no way to control how that will be perceived down the road. And there's no way, especially in the polarized world we're in today, and I'm hoping that's a microclimate. I'm hoping that soon we'll see some of this division be broken down. But today, if I'm living my legacy, then that legacy I'm leaving is probably only attractive or given credit by half of America, and the other half seem to think that maybe I'm doing something wrong on either side. So again, live your convictions, live your life through the lens that you have today, and you'll create a legacy that hopefully will stick around forever and have positive impacts. So again, be intentional about it, but to leave that legacy, you got to know your convictions. You got to be morally and ethically sound, and you need to lead by example. So go build your legacy today, and talk to you soon. Thanks.